Hey, you made it. Today I want to talk about Professor Dave Explains and how he's gone from science teacher to pretty much content cop of the science world. Now, originally 10 years ago, Dave started his channel as just sort of science teaching. It was just teaching videos with nice visuals, and they're short to the point videos that explain things in a nice, concise way.
The thing we have to do to understand biochemistry is to learn about the different kinds of biomolecules.
I've used them myself during my own degree, and they are actually really good. But at some point over the past 10 years, it seems like Professor Dave just chose violence. He saw things he didn't like and just decided enough is enough, and he's just going to start speaking up against it. Now, the first one of these I actually saw was the Flat Earthers one, where he just debates somebody for like an hour and a half, and every single point they come up with, he doesn't just say you're wrong. He says you're wrong, explains every single reason in detail, backed by science, why they're wrong, and they just don't have an answer. It reminds me a lot of those old Louis Theroux documentaries where he kind of pick apart their ideology in front of them and give them questions they just don't know the answer to, and they just kind of sit there and wonder what the hell they've gotten themselves in for, kind of thing. It feels very much with the Flat Earther debates that it's bringing a stick to a gunfight. Like, what are you actually doing here? He's been on a real mission to just tear apart these people, the conspiracy theories in particular, and especially with the Flat Earther stuff where he just absolutely tears it apart. It isn't even a debate anymore, it's so one-sided, like, they're absolutely hilarious to watch.
The Earth goes around the sun in how long? How long does it take?
A year?
Why don't you go ahead and get in a car and do a 360 turn and make it take a year? Are you going to feel that?
And in all honesty, it needs to be said, like, if you're going to believe in this crap, you better come with the actual preparation to explain why he's wrong, because he's not wrong. Hundreds and hundreds of years of physics are not wrong. Maybe aspects of them have changed over the years, but there's one thing for certain: the Earth is not flat. If you believe that, I don't know what rock you've been living under, but sure. And then it comes to Terrence Howard and the whole Joe Rogan podcast thing and whatever he's saying on there that is just absolute insanity. To me, I really don't like the Joe Rogan podcast anyway. I find a lot of misinformation gets spread on there, and there's hundreds of millions of listeners to this podcast, so sooner or later someone is going to believe what you're saying on there, whether you get these guests on or not. Like, if you bring in professors that say the vaccine isn't going to work or the vaccine has aluminium in it, even if like 0.1% of your listeners believe that, that's going to have a big impact on people and a big impact on the vaccines in general, which is just a really stupid thing to do. And I really don't like that Joe Rogan has that ability and that power over people in general. It's just really ridiculous. But that leads me along nicely to sort of Terrence Howard thing and the 1 × 1 = 2 debate. Like, what debate? What the hell are you even talking about? But again, Professor Dave has sort of cottoned onto this, and he has been ripping him apart. He's done like 3 videos now that are like an hour long. They just absolutely shred every single thing he's saying because it's just complete nonsense. But in my opinion, it needs to be said.
Then demonstrating how everything he just said is bananas idiotic, let's review what multiplication is. 1 × 4 literally means the number 1 4 times, and then you add them up.
Even if 0.1% of the listeners actually believe what Terrence Howard is saying and believe he's some genius that has found that physics is actually wrong and that 1 times by itself is actually 2, the guy doesn't have 2 brain cells to rub together. And by that I mean 1 brain cell, because, you know, one brain cell times 1 brain cell is obviously 2, isn't it? So, but it's just absolutely insane that they have this influence. And some people actually will believe this. Specifically, I looked at the video of the free body problem where he just says a load of words and doesn't actually do anything whatsoever. But I'm just glad that Professor Dave is actually speaking up about this stuff. Not only are they entertaining, they really help stop that spread of misinformation that seems to be happening all over the internet at the moment. He's even taken shots at other scientific creators like Sabine Hossenfelder and just kind of ripping them apart with things that they're lying and spreading online. And it just reminds me a lot of those old iDubbbz Content Cop videos. Not the H3 one that was an hour of just him watching a podcast clip and saying, "Oh, I don't think Ethan's apology is very good." Shut up, bro. Please just don't make any of those ever again. But no, I really enjoy the fact that Professor Dave is actually doing this. Now, a lot of people seem to have this counter-argument that, oh, he's not a real professor, it's just the name of his channel. That doesn't make any sense. He's never claiming to be a real professor. It's just like a pseudonym. It's just a name that he's given to his channel. Like, Mr. Beast is not actually a beast, is he? Like, what are you talking about? It's not a counter-argument. Yeah, sometimes maybe he can come across as a bit condescending in some of the debates, but I can kind of understand it comes from a point of passion. Like, he is passionately talking about these things that are correct to someone who doesn't even understand basic mathematics that you can do when you're like 10 years old. There's so many conspiracies out there that are just completely ridiculous, and I'm glad he's covering it. The same with that archaeologist one, where the guy isn't even an archaeologist, he just theorizes that aliens and things have created all this. Like, no, just shut up. There's actually a mile hole underneath the pyramid. They just found it. Yeah, I'm sure there is, buddy. Have you got any proof of that? It just baffles me how people get sucked into this stuff. But the problem with the internet and the way things are at the moment and the way things have been with the sort of uprising of everything communication-wise, if you find one other person that shares those ideologies, then you've suddenly got thousands of people who share it because they can all find each other online and just stay in that circle of just, yeah, I actually believe this stuff. It's like on Reddit with the subreddits for Flat Earth trying to counter-debate everything, like debunking Professor Dave's videos. You've clearly got thousands of people who believe this stuff, who have found each other through the internet. You didn't have this kind of pull before. They don't get as big, and they're not as heard either. And I'm just so glad that someone out there is actually ripping them apart and saying, look, this is just complete and utter rubbish. Counter my points or go away. And they never have a counter. But personally, I'm all here for it. I enjoy both the educational side of Professor Dave's channel as well as the side where he just rips apart their ideologies. I'm not too interested in the political side of things. I tend not to really have that strong of an interest in actual politics and like left and right kind of stuff. I just don't have an interest in that kind of content, so I'm not going to talk about any of that on here. But just in general, for the pseudoscience and the vaccination stuff and the flat earthers, everything like that, I absolutely love his videos. I love just watching him rip them apart and just give it with science and facts. Specifically, it's the Professor Dave humiliates flat earther David Weiss. That video was absolutely amazing. He just absolutely tears into him for the entire hour. Like, I don't even know how he didn't leave the call. You just keep bringing up these points and he just shuts down every single one. It's just hilarious, man. But just time and time again, it's more and more flat earthers coming on, and more of him are just absolutely rinsing them. He just chews them up and spits them out, picks apart everything they're trying to say, and disproves it with hundreds of years worth of physics. Like, what did you think was going to happen when you went on these things? You're not going to disprove someone who actually knows something. Like, he has a degree in chemistry. That doesn't necessarily mean he's insanely knowledgeable of physics, but he has enough knowledge, clearly, with the videos he makes, and he has enough knowledge and understanding to actually articulate his points and to break down why they're wrong. I mean, he has a master's degree in education, like science education, so that's going to help the channel, obviously, to help him grow and help him make these videos, but that also kind of gives him another perspective. And I also think he does have a deeper understanding of the physics side of things, because the way he debates it, he brings in real facts, real science, and just destroys everyone that tries to counter him with that kind of stuff. And I'm all here for it. Just because he doesn't have a degree in physics doesn't mean that he doesn't have a deep understanding of physics and is able to actually articulate the points, as I've said. Like, he can still rip them apart even by not having the degree in it. Like, I see it a lot with a lot of these bigger channels, especially things like Ninja Nerd, when the educators, like, they just know a lot of stuff. They prep for a lot of these videos, they know a lot of it, and they retain a lot of it, even if that's not the original intention. Like, he will know a lot just from making tens and hundreds of educational videos. Like, he's going to know a lot of stuff, a lot about science in general. And I just wanted to make this video because I feel like it is what the original Content Cop kind of was about. It's just seeing stuff that's just ridiculous and just absolutely tearing it apart. Seeing other content creators and thinking, you're an idiot and I'm going to call you out for that. Like, I tried to do it myself a little bit on this channel, but obviously I'm a lot smaller than some of the bigger channels that do these things. But I just think sometimes it needs to be said. You need to have that disagreement with the person and outline why they're wrong, especially with that Metabichet video I last made, because if you see things that you don't agree with and you see misinformation, you gotta say something about it, in my opinion. Like, especially from a position I'm in, like, I enjoy making these videos. I enjoy calling other people out and saying this is just absolutely ridiculous, what you're talking about. Professor Dave just does that on a much larger scale, but who knows, maybe I'll get there one day. Anyway, this has been a bit of a sort of praise of Professor Dave and a mini rant about the whole world in general and Joe Rogan. Maybe I might make a follow-up video about Joe Rogan, but who knows. Anyway, if you made it this far in the video, please make sure you subscribe. It'll really help the channel out. And with that, I want to thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.